Good morning. Start with the wrong camera angle. Off to a good start here. Hi everybody. Also, my little animation didn't roll. I wonder what went wrong there. Well, good to see you all. Today is Sunday. Today is not my normal streaming day of Tuesday. On Tuesday this week, the space will be used for a completely different shoot. So I had to move my live stream this week, and I thought I would try a weekend and see how it goes. So let me know where you're joining from, and I will put my map up. It looks like we have Jordan from New York. I saw Zach from Florida a second ago. Good to see everybody here. Thank you for joining. And I discovered a new thing that somehow I've never used in the ATEM Mini before, which is that you can actually make little circles and other shapes for picture-in-picture. So now I'm floating in a little circle off in the corner instead of the normal rectangle. So I'll show you how to do that in a second. Somehow I've just never even looked at that tab before, but it's been there the whole time. So yeah, that's fun. Good to see everybody here. Looks like we got a good crowd from Europe again. I'm keeping this in the mornings my time because I know that it would be too late in the day if I pushed it back any further. So again, the schedule for today, if you are joining for the first time, welcome. Thank you for joining. I'm just here to answer questions. So we're going to chat about the ATEM Mini, ATEM Mini Pro, the new ISO, which I actually now have. Finally arrived last week, and I've only played with it a little bit, but happy to chat about that as well. And streaming stuff, live streaming, whatever you want to talk about. Really, I'm just here to answer questions. So I will take a look at the chat. Let me get the chat up here so I can see what you all are saying. And yeah, no garbage truck today because yeah, it's the weekend, and I guess they come at a different time on the weekends. Yes, I discovered this circle thing during Photo Joseph's live stream last week. And I was like, oh yeah, there's that whole other tab in the interface, and I completely just overlooked it. Oh yeah, if you do have a question for me, make sure you mention my full name because then it shows up orange here, there. And when it's orange, it's a lot easier for me to see it in the chat. And then I'll make sure to actually be able to see your questions. So yeah, let me scroll back up in the chat, see what we've got here. How do we do the round key? Let's dive in. Let's dive in to see where is the circle option. So I'm going to show you my computer screen, and I'm going to show my, let's see, I can move the chat down there. I can show the computer screen. Oh yeah, I give myself a little drop shadow for my key, although I should probably move that over. Let me move myself over there. And then I'm going to, what do I want to do? I want to go to the ISO so that I can, no, I want to, yeah, I'm just going to show you this right here. So I don't need the multi-view. So I'm up here in a little square because I'm using DVE. And you can see that as I adjust the position, it's going to move me around, right? And scale as well. So that's all great. The mask is actually really useful here as well. So I can trim off, like, trim off, these don't scroll very well. Trim off some of the side to make myself into a little square. That's all great. But there's this whole other tab here called pattern, which somehow I've just never even tried any of this stuff. So what pattern does is it's the same idea, like you choose right now. So I've got my computer screen as the background. So I'm choosing which camera to use in this key. And I'm choosing the camera here, but then I'm also choosing the shape. And there's a bunch of different options. So I'm in a circle here, but I can also be in a diamond. And you can choose the size of the diamond. You can choose symmetry and softness, which is kind of cool. But it gets a little weird if you don't shape it right. And there's other ones which I'm not quite sure I understand what the purpose of these is, but because this is kind of like a crop, but then it's, I guess I can do a soft blend. Yeah, I don't know why I would want to do this. I guess it's kind of cool. But the other important thing is if you don't have flying key enabled, then it's going to look like this, where it's like full screen, right? Full screen. Oh, I'm too soft. There we go. Full size picture with some sort of mask, right? So I've got a diamond mask, circle mask, top corner, angle for some reason. And then if you enable flying key, you can move yourself around. And that's where I think it gets cool. So you use the flying key and then you can be anywhere on the page. Is there a heart pattern as well? I don't see a heart pattern in here. It's just these, but you can do like, I wonder if you can change any of the, no, I don't think you can make a heart out of these. So that's interesting. The other, I mean, it would be cool to have a heart pattern. The other interesting thing here is this flying key section, and it gets a little silly, but you can set keyframes. So I can say this is position A, and then I'm going to move myself over to, let's move myself to the middle, and also make myself bigger. And this is position B. So now I've got those two keyframes saved. So now I can say run to A and I animate over there. Or now run to B. Or run to infinite, which is going to make me disappear. Zoop. Come back. Isn't that interesting? I don't know why I would use these, but they're kind of fun, I guess. So I don't know. Let me know what you think about what, like, when would you actually use these? I'm assuming also that any of these can be programmed in as macros, of course, right? So if I've got my settings here, I can make a button to like restore these settings, a macro button to restore all these settings into this state. And then I can make a macro button to do that. So I'm assuming. I can't imagine it wouldn't work that way. It's a little confusing with the YouTube thumbnail behind there, sorry. So yeah, interesting. I do like it for the map though. So I think this is the wrong tab, but where I can now just plot myself in the corner, and that's cool. Oh yeah, for graphics, that's a good call. It does make sense to have that as for graphics instead of necessarily camera. So if I have, I don't know if I have any graphics here. I guess I have my media player, my logo. So if I use, okay, I could see like bringing that in with a little slide. Right, if I set some keyframes, maybe didn't do the flying key, then I could like, zoop. Yeah, kind of fun. Cool, well, that's that. Bring myself back. And that is, yeah, that's fun. So a whole new section that I never even explored, that pattern tab. Pretty cool, pretty cool. I've used the Chroma and Luma and DVE a lot, but I haven't actually used the pattern section before. What do you know? Pretty cool that that's built in. So let me go back and take a look at the chat. I'll bring it back up to my main monitor. So, all right, let's take a look at some of the questions. Rick says, can you operate H2R Graphics using the MIDI controller I showed last week? So I showed this last week. It's a little AirTurn. This thing is cool. I like it. And it's got two buttons, so you can only do so much with it, but you should be able to make it do anything you can do with the Stream Deck. So the way I've got this set up is the buttons on here are, this is the one I'm using for this show. So I've got a button on here, which is that like animation. I've got my main camera shot. And then what you do is you use this other app, this one, called Osculator, and it maps these two buttons into OSC commands that go into Companion. So essentially, this means press on screen 2, button 18. And you can actually see on the Stream Deck, how am I going to show you this? Is this cable long enough to pull out? Yes. So if I go over to my wide camera, if you look closely on the Stream Deck, up in the corners, there's these little numbers. Sorry, can't get that any closer. I guess I can zoom. There we go. So these little numbers, 2.2, 2.3, right? Those are like the buttons. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is screen 2, and I've got my other screen of buttons here and here. And you make an OSC command to... I was like, where's my Stream Deck? It's not on the desk where it normally is because it's in my other hand. So you make a command in the Osculator app to press bank 2 button 18. And that maps to this button. So basically, controlling H2R Graphics, if you can get it set up in Companion to control H2R Graphics, then you can make that control H2R Graphics because it's just pushing buttons on, these virtual buttons in Companion. And I don't know if I have enough set up here to demo that. Let's see if I do. Because I haven't actually done this in H2R Graphics before, but there is this whole section about OSC commands, sending OSC commands to H2R Graphics. So I would have to basically... Oh yeah, no, that means there's an even simpler version because I can just map MIDI presses directly to OSC commands in H2R instead of going through Companion. I was thinking I was going to make a button in Companion first to control H2R, but you can just go directly to it. So I would send an OSC message to I would have to add an OSC device. Gosh, where did I do that? There it is, yeah. So I would have to go in here and add a new OSC service. 127.00.1, wherever it's running, and this is H2R, and then now I haven't actually done this, so I don't actually know what OSC command to send, but somewhere in here there's docs on like what OSC commands to send for the different options in H2R. But I'm pretty sure, I'm almost certain that John has a tutorial on that, so I will save you the trouble of me fiddling with that and let him explain it. So yes, now I'm seeing that Nathan beat me to it. You can use ATEM OSC. Oh, okay, this is a different thing. So you can use ATEM OSC to use OSC commands to execute on the ATEM directly without Companion. That's true. The reason I use Companion is because I already have it set up and I have all my buttons set up on Companion. So it made sense to try to make this control the Companion instead of going directly to the ATEM or through ATEM OSC. But yeah, if you don't want to use Companion for anything, you could use ATEM OSC instead. Osculator is not available for Windows. It is Mac only. That is true, although I'm pretty sure there is something equivalent to it. And I just haven't looked because I use my Mac here, not my Windows PC here. But basically what you're looking for is something that can convert MIDI to OSC. So this shows up as a Bluetooth MIDI device. And then you need to convert MIDI to OSC and then OSC to ATEM. There's a few steps in there, but it totally works. Totally works. All right. Hi from hi Australia. Yeah, it is late there. Thank you for joining. And it is, yeah, middle of the night, but any earlier than this and I start getting into early morning here in order to have time to set up. All right. Russell says, I've noticed you have Home Assistant listed in Companion. Are you using it for YouTube workflow in any way or just for general lighting? Right now, I actually have it set up where there's a button on my Companion called White Lights. And what that does is it lets me reset these lights back to white. So if you send me a super chat, they change color. So I can, this is my Home Assistant, but like, you know, they'll be red after somebody sends me a super chat message. And then I can just push a button on Companion and turn them back to white. So that is why I've got it in here listed as a connection. And cool. All right, let me scroll back up. I'm a little behind on the chat. All right. Walter says, for the initial purchase of ATEM, which version should I get? I would say it depends on what you're going to be using it for, of course. So the ATEM Mini, not Pro, doesn't have the streaming encoder built in. And there are plenty of use cases where you absolutely don't need the streaming encoder. And if you don't need the streaming encoder and you don't need multi-view, get the ATEM Mini because it's so darn cheap for what it is. It's $300. It is unheard of to have something with its capability in a package that small and cheap. At $300, it is just an easy recommendation. But if you do think you're going to want multi-view, which is, of course, this screen here, where I can see, you know, all my different cameras. I can see preview program and like the on-air button, streaming bitrate, all that kind of stuff. If you want this display, this is only in the Pro and the ISO. So that's something to keep in mind. And if you do want those features, then the Pro is a great option. The ISO adds recording of each input simultaneously. And that is a very, very, very cool feature, but also not necessary in every use case. And it may not be worth the extra $300 for those features to you. The main reason for it is if you're going to be doing a live stream that you may want to re-edit later. Like, I don't re-edit these. I just go. And if I cut to the wrong camera, whatever, that's part of the show. If you are going to be live streaming or even just producing an edited show that you're filming live and you want to be able to re-edit the shots and the cuts you do, the ISO is amazing for that. So it's going to record each input as a separate file on the SD card. And I can actually show you that now that I've got one here and show you what the files look like. So that's super, super, super cool. And that one's $900, which is now at the price point where I'm like, well, it's a good deal, but I can't just be like, everybody should go get the ISO because it's not super cheap anymore. It's still a good deal, but it's not super, super cheap. So yeah, hopefully that gives you an idea. It's a interesting spectrum of products they have right now. And speaking of, Nathan says, I really enjoyed your perfect ATEM video. Would love a similar one for perfect live streaming specific Blackmagic design camera. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah. I might have, I wonder what my perfect live streaming camera would be. Because the Blackmagic 4K is pretty darn close, even though I haven't actually switched over to it because I'm not good enough with it yet. I still need to learn how to do color grading better. I got a little overwhelmed with it actually because I was switching up too many parts of my workflow all at the same time. I am in the middle of shooting for a course and I'm using that set over there, and that is a new set that I've only done a couple of videos at. I got a new light. I got a new camera. I got a new editor. So I switched to Resolve so I can actually edit the Blackmagic raw footage. And I changed everything in my workflow all at the same time. And then I got kind of overwhelmed because it meant that like I wasn't sure when I was doing something wrong. Like if the footage didn't turn out right, I didn't actually know at what part in the chain was failing. So I couldn't be like, oh, I got my exposure wrong, because I don't know how to expose properly on that camera yet. But it also could be that I'm not using the editor properly, because I'm also switching to a new editor. So moral of the story is, don't change all of your tools at the same time. Change just one at a time, get better at that, and then change the next. So for this course, I didn't want to just, and I have to do hours and hours and hours of footage and editing for this. So I was like, I need to just be able to crank this out quickly, not cranking, not worrying about the details of it. So I switched back to my Lumix, which I know how to use pretty well and can, make sure that it looks right when I shoot on it. And I did switch to Resolve though. So I am learning Resolve because I spent a while on a couple of tutorials and I got familiar enough with it. And then I was like, yes, I like it a lot. This makes a lot of sense. I like the way it works, and it seems to work better on my computers. Because I do not have a powerful computer, because I am not willing to spend enough on a Mac to get a powerful Mac. So that was a fun little diversion. Can you color control the Blackmagic 4K remotely? Yes, you can. So the ATEM Mini, all of the ATEM Minis can control the Blackmagic cameras, which is super cool. So you can actually, you get the full color controls. I don't have mine here, but you can kind of see in the software control app, there's this camera tab. So this is where the controls happen. This is not hooked up to anything, but you can do color adjustments, and this is your exposure and gamma. And if you have a zoom lens that has a motor, then you can actually zoom in and out as well, which is kind of cool. This is the button for autofocus, and that's your focus wheel down here. So yeah, it's pretty cool actually. And it's kind of fun to use that to control the camera. All right. Can you combine two ATEM Mini Pros so you can have more camera setups? You sure can. I actually don't think that ATEM Mini Pros is necessary for this. So what I've got on my desk, that's not going to, I can't pick that up easily. So I've got, this is the one that's doing the streaming right now. You can see the on air button is live. And I got my shutter speed set. I need to adjust that. There we go. Less flickering on the buttons. Now it's so hard to make the buttons not flicker on camera. So this is the one streaming. This one is plugged into this. So if you look on my monitor here, this one I can't share into the stream. So I'm using this camera, so I also can't even show you that. Whoops. This is not set up right to demonstrate this setup. This is this ATEM. So this fourth input on my main ATEM is actually this ATEM. This is the ISO. And right now it's sending the program feed out. If I send the multi-view out, okay, yeah, that works. Yeah, so this is the multi-view of that ATEM ISO. And now you can kind of, if you look at my screen up in the top right corner, this is now showing me the multi-view, which is then showing to you on the stream. And behind this one is actually this one, which is a regular ATEM Mini. And I ran out of inputs, so I used this to just switch between these two cameras. And of course, there's no multi-view on this, so the only thing that comes out of this output is the whatever camera I'm switching to. So ATEM Mini at $300 is actually, okay, let me reset all this. The ATEM Mini at $300 is actually a pretty affordable way to add 3 inputs to your setup. You don't get multi-view on those, but it's fine. You don't really need them for just basic camera switching in that case. If you do want the multi-view, then of course it gets a little more complicated, because you either are going to show the multi-view on the screen, which you probably don't want unless you're doing what I'm doing, which is talking to you about multi-view, or you are not using the multi-view because you won't need the HDMI out for the inputs. So yeah, I do have all 3 on my desk right now. That's funny. I didn't actually mean to do that, but I do. Okay. So where were we in the chat? Let me scroll back up. Can you tell me more about the audio settings on the ATEM and how you have the mic connected? Yeah. So I have, again, my, let's see, camera, this one, no, this one, and this one. The camera that I'm using is this Lumix G7, and if I just tilt this up, I'm unscrewing it. Sorry, it's all wobbly. So this is what I've got up there. I've got my light, and I've got, this is the camera with my 15mm lens, and its microphone is this, and it's plugged into the camera. I like doing it that way because it's just simpler. So no power needed for that microphone, and it is just running directly into the camera, and it makes it just super simple. So I don't need to worry about audio delay because the camera, I should not have taken that off. I need a quick release plate for this. I don't have to worry about audio delay because the microphone is running into the camera directly. So I don't have, the camera makes the audio in sync. Oh my God, come on. Okay. There we go. So yeah, pretty simple. I like it just because it's such a simple setup. Simon says, is Sunday going to replace Tuesday, or is this just temporary? I think this is just temporary. We'll see. It depends on how many people tell me that they missed my show because they couldn't attend on Sunday or something. Although I'm thinking this actually does make more sense for my own schedule, because after this show, I'm going to go over there and film some more stuff, and I might even replace the fan in my television studio. I got more of these in, and I got these in, which is that is the end you need for, this camera is a lot better autofocus. This is the end you need for the to plug into the Blackmagic itself, like on the motherboard inside. And now I don't need to chop up the original Blackmagic fans like I did with this one, which this poor fan, it has no life anymore. This is from the Hyperdeck, and I didn't want to do that to the two fans in the television studio. So now I got these little connectors, and I can chop off the wire from the new fan and not destroy the actual Blackmagic fans. So I might do that project today. And then I can film that. Then that'll be the end of that video, and I can edit that one. Because I filmed the whole process of doing the Hyperdeck replacement. Kyle says, if there's an inherent delay in HDMI that the ATEM gives 8 frames to correct, how would adding a wireless transmitter to one or two cameras affect this? So the delay would be coming from one of your cameras. So if you're adding a wireless transmitter to the cameras, you're going to be adding more delay to those cameras. So those, the Hollyland Mars, though, it's not actually that much of a delay. I haven't measured it, but I'm going to. And I've got this test clip on my Hyperdeck now that I can actually use to measure it. It shows like frame counters. I think I showed it on one of my live streams. But I'm going to use that to be able to measure the delay of the transmitter. And basically, it's just going to add 1 or 2 frames probably to the signal. So I guess since the ATEM can only correct up to 8 frames of delay, if your camera is already maxing that out, then you're kind of out of luck. So if you are, if you need the full 8 frames because your camera is delayed 8 frames, adding more delay to that is going to just add more delay, and you won't be able to compensate for it. All right. Sebastian says, is there a chance to switch between pictures in the media player with a transition? fade from media 1 to media 2. Unfortunately not, and that's the limitation of having just one media player. So the ATEM Television Studio, for example, has 2 media players. So you'll actually see a second one down here, and you can then load different graphics in each one, and then in your switcher, there's also then 2 media player buttons here. So like it just says MP1, but on the Television Studio, it says MP1 and MP2. And then you can actually do a crossfade between them. But with this one, you can only load one into the player at a time. So you're kind of just stuck. So if I grab that graphic, there's no way I can put that second graphic anywhere, because the only place these can go is the media player. And if I do that, it just swaps it out. So unfortunately, no. All right. Can you record to a hard drive and OBS at the same time with the Pro, not the ISO? So it's the same for the Pro and the ISO, and no, you can only use the USB for one thing. This was one of the things on my wish list to Blackmagic, because I think there's plenty of reasons why this would be useful, and if you had 2 USB ports, then you could do both. I just saw my lights change. Thank you, Marlon, for the super chat. Would I consider doing one-on-one consulting? And if so, let me know where to contact you to discuss rates and be able to get an hour to get all questions answered. Right now, I don't really do this. I've been thinking about it, but I am not really set up. My schedule is not set up to do that right now. But I will say, first of all, thank you for the super chat. And I'm happy to answer questions right now. So feel free to just drop in some questions if I can help you right now. But Photo Joseph does do one-on-one consulting. So he has, let me see, where's his page? Where'd that little line come from on the chat? Something about the Chromecast changed what's sending. Okay. One-on-one. Let me show you Photo Joseph's website. He does one-on-one consulting. So photojoseph.com, go over to support one-on-one, and he has his rates here: 20 minutes, $50, 1 hour, $145. And he knows everything about streaming and ATEMs as well. He is building an amazing rig right now in his studio for multiple camera shots with a whole rack of gear, of ATEM gear. It's great. So take a look at him if you want some one-on-one help right now. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer questions on the stream. And again, if you do want me to make sure, if you do want to make sure I see your message, the super chat's a great way to do it, because it turns my background a different color, and then I will jump down to that part in the chat. All right, let me try to catch up with these questions, see if I can knock a few of them out. Hardy Media says, can you talk more about remote interviews, specifically remote control of ATEM or Blackmagic cameras? Yes. So I am trying to find the optimal workflow for this that I can actually recommend to people. So I've got this set up right now effectively at my between my house and my studio. So I have a VPN between the two sites, and I can just go into my software control app and type in the IP address of the ATEM that's sitting at home and control it. Now, getting that set up was a bit of a process, and that's also a little bit more than you need for this kind of thing. But you do effectively need to. So if you imagine shipping an interview kit to somebody, you would give them an ATEM Mini Pro, actually probably an ISO, since then you can record all the inputs, and then a Blackmagic camera or two, and also then this is what I'm hoping to do this with. This is this little travel router. So you can see it's got a couple of Ethernet ports, and the Ethernet ports, one plugs into the, my background changed. I'll get to that in a second. So these Ethernet ports, one plugs into the ATEM. This is actually a Wi-Fi device, so your computer can connect to its Wi-Fi. But this can also be a VPN client. So this would then VPN into your home network or your control station, where you would then be able to get onto this device's network and control the ATEM. However, there's a piece in there that I hand waved over that I haven't figured out how to do on this particular device. I can do it on a Raspberry Pi, but I'm not willing to walk you through the process of setting up a Raspberry Pi to do that because it is not trivial. So I'm hoping to be able to put it together with that so I can actually recommend this solution. But it'll be super cool once it works. This is from Mark, just some support. Cheers, Mark. Thanks for joining. Good to see you here. Hopefully Sunday works better for you for joining the stream. Thank you so much. Good to see you. All right. What else do I have anything else to say about remote control? Yeah, so once you are set up with that VPN situation where the VPN client can get into your network and you can get onto its network, the ATEM can control the Blackmagic. So then you get full control of the remote end. So that's the idea. And that's what I would really like to get set up in a way that I can easily replicate for other people. Russell says, are you using Resolve with your MacBook Pro? I'm actually using it on Windows because my Windows computer is more powerful than this little poor 13-inch MacBook Pro with no graphics card. And my Windows computer actually has a graphics card and it is much, much, much better at Resolve. Still debating my computer setup though. I'm trying to decide if I should build a PC, which sounds a little bit overwhelming because I haven't built a PC since like, I want to say Pentium days. Like, it's been a while. I mean, I put together little Intel NUCs, but that doesn't really count because you just add a hard drive and RAM. You don't choose the components. But I have not bought a processor since, yeah, a long time. So I don't even know what like the options are anymore. I don't know who's fighting who about who's got the best processor these days. Let me know. You think I should build a PC, or should I just go like buy a MacBook or a Mac Mini or with an external GPU or something? I don't know. Thank you, Hardy Media, for the super chat. Hope I gave you some good tips there. I appreciate it. All right. Where was I in the chat? There we go. Okay. Looking for perfect live streaming cameras for multi-remotes. Nathan says, built-in networking streaming with the goal of being able to send a camera to a remote location and use a streaming bridge as a receiver for it. That would be cool. I will also say that you can get some pretty cheap streaming encoders. Well, not cheap, but less than the ATEM Mini Pro, for example. And that, in theory, I think, we'll see once I get one, but I'm pretty sure the streaming bridge can receive any RTMP stream. I'm crossing my finger this is true, because if that's true, it's going to be so useful. For exactly this case, right? Stream from anything like a little hardware encoder. Tim says, I've tried the SanDisk Extreme Pro with my ISO to see if the extra write speed made any difference compared to the Samsung T5, and it hasn't. Yeah, it's writing 70 megabit per second files of each camera, and that's not actually that much, right? So I've so far only used it with, what is this? It's actually an old SanDisk Extreme 500. It's the old style, the little square one, not the rectangle. And it handled just fine. Camille says, is it possible that future software update will let you dim the switcher lights? I hope so. I sure hope so. Because, man, those things are bright. And it's a little annoying, depending on the room you're in, because they really put out a lot of light. I would hope. I feel like that's something they can do in software, because it's software controls which buttons are lit, so they can just light them less. Rick says, second ATEM Mini Pro is also a good way to get a second upstream key. It's a good point. And a second media player. You can chain two of them together and then you can do some cool stuff. You can actually do the sort of interview side-by-side layout with two ATEM Mini Pros. Oh, I have an idea. Now that I know about the circle thing. Okay, let me take a little trip and try to set this up. Let's get rid of the chat. And if I switch to, let me show you what I'm doing here first, but then I'll use my computer background so you can see what I'm doing. What I want to do is change, not DVE, I want one as my circle face here, flying key. Come on, circle, where is it? There it is. So I can put myself over here. Let's make me a little bigger. Let's go 0.5. And then if I take, so this is all just in one ATEM, right? That was not the right one. This is what I want to do. This is in one ATEM. So if I take the other ATEM, which now I have to switch over to it. So switch over to the ATEM Mini Pro ISO. Come on. Come on. You were on the network. You saw it. I know you saw it there. Hello. Let me just type in it has the old IP address. I give mine static IPs in my DHCP server so they're easier to find. So on this one, I want to use my media player as the background, and then I'm also going to do flying key, except now I can't see this. Where am I seeing this? Okay, program out. I can see it on my multi-view. How can you see it? If I do this, you can see it. Okay. Yeah, here we go. So now you're looking at the output of the other ATEM, but this little floating circle of me is from my streaming ATEM, which means as soon as I turn on the other key, now suddenly we've got two circles. So I can set, let's see, choose how much of that picture to grab. So maybe slide it over so you can see my desk, and then fly that key and position it. And now I have an interview with myself. And if I switch this ATEM to show my main camera, now I've got two versions of me on the screen. So this is two different, actually you can, two different camera angles, right? So you can actually do an interview style where you've got your background of your graphic and then your two people talking heads floating. Now they're in circles. So that's pretty cool. And this is only possible because there's two, in this setup, there's now two upstream keyers, one on each ATEM Mini. The larger ATEMs have more than one upstream keyer built in, so you could do this, I guess, built in. Once I got my television studio fans replaced and I can use it on this desk, then I can do this kind of stuff built into just the one ATEM. But yeah, this is a good use for two of them. And even actually for this, you wouldn't need to use the ATEM Mini Pro for the second one. You could do this layout in just the ATEM Mini. So again, it's cheap enough that like for $300, being able to add a upstream keyer and a extra camera and stuff, yeah, worth it. I just noticed my background color has changed. Thank you for the super chat. Let's see what we've got in the chat from Marlon. Is there a way to do two same size windows on one screen with a different background, almost like a split screen of two cameras like they do in the news? That's basically what I just did. So yeah, if you two same size windows on one screen with a different background. Yeah. So that's what I just walked through, right? And I just happen to use the circle crop for that, but you don't have to. So if I go back to, can I go back to that? So that's now my second ATEM. And I can, instead of circles, I could just do oops, I'm on the wrong one. I am on the wrong ATEM. Go back to the ISO. So I can change that to a square, maybe this way, and like that. Maybe position it like this and then make it a little bigger. And now I've got kind of like a side-by-side, right? So this is now one ATEM, and if I use the other one, which now the upstream keyer is busy on the chat, I think. I'm gonna go over back to the other ATEM, and oh no, my downstream keyer is there. Cool. Oh, look at all these fun graphics floating around. So let me go back to the rectangle, change the size, change the symmetry to that, and change the size of the rectangle, and position it down a little bit. So you can see I've got now my side by side, same size. I can, you know, if I don't want it to go to the edges, I can shrink it a bit and bring that down to 0. And it's now a little bit complicated because I have to switch in order to control both of them. I have to keep switching between things that are plugged in, but totally works. Totally works. Cool. Well, now that I've thoroughly messed up my... Oh, no, it's fine. Let's go back to here. Cool. Hopefully that made sense. It's only possible really because because of the second ATEM Mini in here, because then you get the two keyers. But again, you don't need two Pros for that. You just need an ATEM Mini to do the extra keying. All right. Let's see, where was I in the chat? I was up here a little bit. Okay, there we go. I use the Roadcaster Pro with my ISO. Oh yeah, we were talking about that the other day. Where was that? That's great. I'm glad to hear that. That's a fantastic device. Also very expensive. I don't think I'm going to buy one just because it's quite expensive, even though I love the idea, and it supports mix minus, and you can connect your phone over Bluetooth to it. So pretty cool. Does seem like pretty much the perfect pairing with... Now I'm selling myself on it. Shoot. I'm going to have to get one, aren't I? Okay. Hardy Media says, can you talk more about remote interviews? You mentioned previously needing VPN, not needed with a streaming bridge. Oh, yeah. So let me talk more about that. The VPN that I have is so that I could control the ATEM. Now, the streaming bridge, I think they're doing some sort of proxy or network discovery stuff going on because the streaming bridge can push over the internet to your ATEM. And I haven't got my hands on it yet, so I haven't quite figured out like what you need to do on your end in order to receive that stream. You may need to port forward in your router, but they may also be doing something where it's avoiding the router by using network magic. But in that case, what that does is a remote location can push from the ATEM Mini Pro to your streaming bridge, but you can't control that ATEM Mini Pro. It's a one-way signal, right? So no VPN needed for that, just internet needed for that. The VPN would be so that I can ship somebody an ATEM Mini Pro and then I can control it remotely. So that I don't have to tell them how to control it. I just tell them plug it in or ship them a box with all the wires connected, ship that out, and then as soon as they turn it on, it connects automatically to my network and then I can control it. So the VPN is needed for that bidirectional control. All right. Zach says, tell us about that LED light panel. Oh yeah, that's the one above my desk here. Let me see if I have that link. I think actually what happened is the particular one I bought went out of stock. But it's essentially a 1 foot by 2 foot panel, and it's attached to this little complicated arm situation. But I like it a lot. It's powered from the wall, so it's just like always on my desk. It has this little remote for changing the brightness and the color temperature. And it is, yeah, it's this nice, because it's 2 feet and it's right up here. It's like, you know, wider. It's about this wide right there. So it's a nice soft light. It's not just like a point. Like I've got these little things, which are pretty bright, but you'll see the difference if I turn off my overhead. This is now what you get when the light source is really small. So you can see that it's just a little bit harsher, right? Like everything is just a little bit, the shadows are harsh and compared to the soft light. So and that's just because it's so big. Let me see if this link still works. Oh, okay, yeah, it's back in stock. That's great. I'm getting that link here. And there it is. Cool. Giant LED panel. Simon says, I prefer Sunday. It's good to end the week. Oh yeah, that's a good point. End the week on a live stream and then get back to work on Monday. Tim says that is the JSC ZH 1.5mm 4-pin cable. Yeah, I forgot who told me exactly what that was, but after we had some chats, I managed to track it down and found it actually on Amazon. And it came very quickly, which I was very happy about. I also bought them on eBay from China, so I'm getting those delivered in a month. So if anybody needs some, I've got like, it came in a pack of 15. So if you want some, I'll just send them to you. They're small enough to put in an envelope, so I can even ship them internationally because I can just use it. Oh, that's fine. Because I can use international stamp postage on that. Let me know. I'm happy to send them. Post on the forum, actually. That's a good place to do it. This is a good question. If you had to go over 150 feet, would you go with SDI or Ethernet extenders? I would probably go with SDI. I've found it to be more reliable. I have some Ethernet extenders and I've used them. They work. I've had some problems with some of them. It could be the cables that I'm using, but I've had more luck with SDI. It is a little more expensive, I think, but I think it's worth it. Okay, another good question. I have a problem with the Mini. After 10-15 minutes, I lose audio from my mixer using input mic 1 using OBS. Ooh, that's interesting. Actually, I'm not sure. So it could be a number of things. I would say time for some troubleshooting. Does the mixer have another audio out that you can double check that it's not something before the mixer? So, you know, plug in headphones, check if the mixer is still sending audio out. Then on the ATEM, there's if you have the multi-view up, there's little audio meters on it. So if you look at wow, where do I get back to that? My other ATEM, let's see if this cancels it all out. Nope. Now there's just two of me everywhere. I need to go back and undo the little graphics I was playing with on my other ATEM to show you this other camera. There we go. So on the multi-view, see this little audio meter? So if you see audio here from that input from mic 2, this is my music. So you can see it's dancing around a little bit, but you can't hear it. See if you can see a signal there, right? And if you see something there, then actually it means the problem is in your computer in OBS. So you got to figure out where in the chain that is breaking down. Michael says, how do you monitor audio going to the Mini Pro since there is no headphone jack? I monitor from this external monitor. So I've got my, on my desk, I have two of them here, but this is the one that's actually connected to the ATEM Mini. This is a little small little monitor, and it has a headphone jack. So the ATEM Mini runs into this. This is a headphone jack. This actually feeds this monitor, but that's so that you can see it bigger here. And so I can see it bigger when I'm fiddling with graphics. But yeah, you just run a headphone jack out of the monitor. This monitor has a headphone jack also, so I could run the headphone jack out of here. And it works fine. It's not that big of a deal that there's not a headphone jack in the Mini, I think. Let me drop a link to that monitor, because that monitor I like a lot as well. This is a little small Feelworld 7-inch. that right? Yeah, I think that's right. I don't know where it went. Well, yeah. Okay, so let me take a look at the questions. I saw another channel's video about using special cables to mix audio into each left or right channel, effectively turning any MIDI into a 12-channel input device. Like using an HDMI audio injector. I guess if you inject audio into the HDMI feed, then each HDMI could end up being a stereo input. Interesting. Not opposed to that. Definitely a bit of a hack. It sounds like a lot of messy cabling, but it would work. It would work. Okay, here is the Feelworld 7-inch monitor with headphone jack. Cool. Can you import an ATEM ISO recorder project into Filmora instead of Resolve without any issues? I don't know Filmora, but I do know that Resolve can export a Final Cut project. So you should be able to take the recording from Resolve, export it to Final Cut. Pretty sure it can export to a format that Premiere can also read. So if Filmora can import one of those, then something will happen and you'll get something. I haven't actually dove in super all the way yet to, I just did a quick test, but I haven't figured out exactly what gets recorded into the Resolve project, if it's just the camera cuts or if it's like the full on key settings and all that. So we'll see. We will see. But yeah, I think you can, because Resolve can export into other formats, you can use it with other editors. Oh, and now I'm back over to the questions about my computer build. Stick to Mac, Windows is awful. The thing is, so I don't disagree, but I've been using Windows now on my laptop for a while, and I don't like it, but it's not terrible. I definitely prefer Macs. For some reason, the mouse on a Mac is just always better. I don't know why, but it's just so expensive. It's so expensive. Tim says build a PC with AMD Ryzen. So I remember AMD and Intel being the two processors, but I don't really know like who's the better one to go with now. Oh yeah, you may watch Doug Johnson building editing PC for Wit. That's a good idea. I should go catch up on that series. I know they were. I just started that last time I was watching. Marvin says, I know you have your two ATEM Minis connected. I want to plug an ATEM Mini into an ATEM Mini Pro, but my Mini is not being recognized by Companion. It's probably just a network issue. So they both have to have a network connection to the same network that your computer is on. It's not going to work. I don't think it's going to work. Yeah, no, I don't think Companion can work over the USB connection that the ATEM uses. So you need to get them both on the network, give them both an IP address, and then in the Companion setup, tell it the IP addresses of both. It should work fine. That's what I've got here. So I've got it controlling the two ATEMs, and I can send commands to both with a single button, which is how I'm doing some of these scenes. Russell says, I'm considering a 2020 iMac 27-inch to replace my 2011. Wow, you've been using a 2011 iMac. Nice. I have too many Apple devices to go PC now. I know, I'm all in on Apple. That's the thing, is like I've got the iPhone, I've got the Apple TV. The only thing I don't have is an Apple Watch. But I have been using Windows because I have to use QuickBooks on Windows, and then I started using Premiere on Windows because it's worked a lot better than on my Mac. Yeah. Leo, are you using OBS for this? Nope, I'm streaming from the Mini. This is all done in the ATEM Mini. Is there any difference between the 3.5mm audio and the HDMI audio? Is there any delay between them? So the delay happens before the ATEM Mini. The delay would be because the camera is sending the audio delayed. And every camera is going to have a slightly different delay, which makes it a little bit of a challenge to deal with. So for example, this camera, the HDMI is delayed about 3 frames. And I can see it, like when I move on my screen, I see it delayed. And that's also enough. So, but the audio is going to the camera, and that camera syncs up the audio with the video it's sending out. So it's sending out, like if I wasn't monitoring myself, you wouldn't see a delay. That hits the ATEM Mini, and then any audio coming in the ATEM Mini is now, real time. So that's where the delay happens. And then you can delay the analog audio in the ATEM Mini to match. So the delay happens because of the camera source. Value for money is better with PC, especially when you get into high-end rigs. However, if you have an all-Apple environment, you could be better off with the Mac Pro. Yeah, they're just so expensive. I don't want to spend that much money on a single thing. I don't mind spending that much money on a bunch of smaller things. Like, I spent a bunch of money on all these ATEMs, right? But I don't want to sink $5,000 into one box. That's why I don't have the giant Constellation 8K. Even though I would have so many inputs to play with. Saw a live chat about battery power for the ATEM Mini. I tested the USB power cord for the Roadcaster. An initial small test looks promising on my Pro. Wait, USB power cord for the Roadcaster? Can it be powered over USB? I didn't actually know that. That's cool. The Pro and the ISO use the same power supply. So the Mini uses a smaller power supply. I mentioned this in my very first video about the Pro. When I got it, I was like, oh, this power supply is significantly larger. It's like 36 watts instead of, I don't remember, I think 18 or something. So it's pretty different. Do not try to power the Pro with the power supply from the Mini. But the ISO shipped with the same power supply as the Pro. So those are both 36 watts. And you could definitely power it over a battery if you can get a battery to output the right voltage for this. Depends on how big the battery is as to how long it would last, of course. Okay. Oh my gosh. The chat just jumped. Jeremy says you can get when we were talking about the ATEM Mini and doing upstream keys. Yeah, you can get a second media player for only $300 and it comes with a free ATEM Mini. That is a good way to think about it. You could think of the ATEM Mini as a $300 upgrade to the Pro that adds another media player and another upstream keyer and three more HDMI inputs. ATEM Mini 4K has to be around the corner soon. Whew. I don't know. I feel like, I obviously don't have any inside information into this, but I feel like releasing 3 ATEM Minis this quickly in a row without any updates to the mid-range, like they had the 8K, Constellation 8K, then they did all the ATEM Minis. I feel like they need to fill in that middle section, add streaming encoders to that middle section. Yeah. Could you share your maximum bitrate on this live? So I'm streaming, I've got it set to 6 megabits per second in the encoder, and the data rate that I'm looking at on my monitor has been, it's usually around 6. It drops a lot lower if I show my computer screen because there's less moving images there. And if I do this and move around a lot, it'll go up a little bit above 6. So now it's actually at 6, now it's at 7, and because there's more motion to encode. Now it's all the way up to 8. But if I stop moving, it'll drop back down because now the background's not changing as much. But I'm targeting 6 megabits. That's what it's set to. ATEM Mini Pro causing 165 Hz gaming monitor DisplayPort, lowering to 60 Hz when the ATEM is connected to record a game by a separate HDMI and PC. I think the ATEM Mini only operates at up to 60 frames a second, so it's not going to be able to capture more than that, which is what's going on. And so it'll also then, when it outputs, it'll output at 60 Hz. So it's going to tell your monitor to set to, go back down to 60 Hz. I was not aware that the Elgato card could capture higher than 60 Hz, but it would not surprise me because it's meant for gaming, which is really the only reason you would need more than 60 frames per second. But the 60 Hz is just that's video, that's high-end video production frame rate. So that's it. That's all you're going to get out of that. Okay, where was I? Oh, yeah, always curious how you control the background light with the chat donations. It's all set up through if this then that. It's actually like I didn't have to do anything. These are Philips Hue lights, and they are connected into if this then that. There's a YouTube connector there, and you just go click, click, and then tell it which lights to control, and it's off and running. It's super cool. But then I have a button here on my Stream Deck to turn them back to white. What's the cheapest build you can do with the ATEM Mini, and what for cameras? I would say probably the best bet for cameras on the cheap is going to be the Lumix G7 because it's $500 with a lens. And this is what I'm using right now. I'm not using the kit lens, but the kit lens is fine for getting started. It doesn't have the widest aperture, but it is, I think it's a 12 to 42. So it's actually got a pretty good range of zoom. And it's $500 with that kit lens. So it's probably the cheapest you're going to get and get this kind of quality out of it. Lumix G7 with kit lens. I'll drop that link in. All right, Innovative Media says, when I plug my monitor from the ATEM Television Studio, I don't get audio from the multi-view. Oh, the Television Studio may not send audio out the multi-view port. I hadn't thought about that. Wow, I just take that for granted in the ATEM Mini line. But the ATEM Television Studio has a headphone jack. I've got mine here. The Television Studio actually does have a headphone jack, and that means that the multi-view on the back, it's very possible it does not send audio out that. I hadn't even thought about that. I'm gonna have to keep that in mind if I do end up using that in this workflow. All right. Julian says, I'm here just finish a live stream and at home just to see your live. Oh, thanks for joining. I hope your live stream went well. Build an AMD Threadripper open core Hackintosh. Oof. I don't think I can do the Hackintosh route. It's too fragile, and I'm going to want to put in like Blackmagic cards into it, and that just seems like I'm going to be fighting it all the time. All the time. Not optimistic about that. Wait for the new Mac with Apple Silicon. That's a thought. Yeah, maybe I should. I mean, they're not going to, it's not like it's going to suddenly get cheaper. Apple's still going to charge a lot of money. So, Brandon says, what makes the Lumix G7 great for streaming? Does it work well for general photography or videography as well? The reason it's great for streaming is because you can get the little battery adapter to power it off of wall power. So that I don't touch any batteries in there. And it does not overheat. It just stays on all the time. I've run this thing for like 8 hours in a day. Has clean HDMI out, no overlays. Has a microphone jack, so you can plug in a mic directly into it. And yeah, oh, the flip out screen, so I can actually see myself up there too, which is useful. And that is why it's good for streaming. It is a fine camera as well. If you are, I would say, so the reason I got it is because it's so cheap, and I don't mind just leaving it on my desk and not having it available for anything else. I would not want to leave my GH5S permanently attached because it's too expensive, and I do want to use it for other things. So this one just lives here. But I did notice when I was playing around with it that there were a few features in my GH5S that this doesn't have, which I would miss if I were using it for general videography. But as an entry-level camera, it's perfect. It's great still. Like totally good camera. And it is, yeah. But the features for streaming that it needs of, clean HDMI out, can be wall powered, won't overheat. Yeah. GH4 is another good point. You can get those used, and those are also still good cameras. Of course, they don't have a lot of the features in the GH5, which is why there was an upgrade, but you also don't need those for streaming. So GH4 is another good option, especially if you can get them used. And for 270 euros, that's a good price. Very good price. I'm all Apple, but the cost difference for a new Resolve box leads to PC much better bang for the buck. It's true. Super true. Got an AMD Ryzen 7 and it rocks. Okay, so sounds like no one's recommended Intel so far, so I should take that hint. Look at the recommended PC system for OBS. That's a thought. I'm not going to use OBS on it, but that's probably a good place to go for good recommendations. What's with the old Mac in the background? I used to play games on this Mac, and it now lives here as a decoration. It doesn't boot anymore, unfortunately. I do want to figure out how to like find a replacement hard drive for it and restore it so I can boot it up, but I just thought it looked cute and I needed to fill up my shelf with some stuff. Hyperdeck has been out for so long. I want one, but do you think a new Hyperdeck will come out soon? That's an interesting question. I kind of actually don't think so. Like, it's not a product that needs any updates. If you think about it, like it just does its job. It's, you know, it's 1/3 rack size, so you can get 3 of them in a rack space. And its only job is to just record or play back media from SD cards. And I don't really want it to do anything else. So I don't know what I would ask for. I guess more 4K or frame rates, higher frame rates. It does 4K 30, but it doesn't do 4K 60. So maybe that would be nice. And I guess if they're going to update it, they're probably going to update it to support 8K since they can go with the Constellation Studio. I would say that's probably the only reason they would need to update it, but otherwise it does a fine job, even though it's been out for a long time. They're also, incidentally, almost impossible to find right now. Photo Joseph is trying to get a hold of 6 of them to do a multicam, to do ISO recordings on multiple cameras. He has not been able to track down enough of them. If you have one and you don't want it, I know of someone who wants to buy one. So let me know. Paul says, I ordered my ATEM Mini Pro ISO from DVE Store. When are they coming in? I just got mine from DVE Store last week. They had a small shipment arrive. I don't know when they're getting more of them, but they did just get the first shipment. So that's good news. That means they're on their way. So if you're in the line, you're fine. It'll come at some point. I have MacBook Pros for work and personal, but building a Ryzen Windows PC just for video editing in Resolve. Yep. That's basically where I'm at. I like laptops for everything except it's just so hard to get one that has enough power for video editing. Oh, chat skipped again. There we go. Ever tinkered around with the Blackmagic design micro cinema studio cameras and the ATEM Minis? So I have the micro studio. That's one of the SDI outputs, not the one that records. And I've used it with my television studio with this thing. And because it's SDI and it's controlled via this thing via SDI. Kind of like how the ATEM Minis controlled Blackmagic Pocket cinema cameras over HDMI. I don't think they're cross-compatible at all. So the Minis can't control the micro studio camera and this can't control the Pocket 4K, which is kind of funny. So we'll see if they can update those to work. But I do, once I get the new fans in here, I can actually run this at this desk and it's not going to sound like a rocket's about to take off. Like, it's bad. It's real bad. If I just plug this in, you'll see how loud this is. So yeah, that's just it. There it goes. Yep, it's booting up. There it goes. It's quiet now because it's not doing anything, but as soon as you run any video through it, oh, you can kind of hear it already. It's turning into a rocket. So I'm looking forward to having it not be a rocket ship because this thing is cool and I want to use it again. And then I'll be able to plug in my micro studio camera in here. I'm thinking I might put it up in the corner somewhere up high and so I can get like a nicer wide shot of this room. All right. I think, where is my, oh, I'm right in the chat. There we go. Waiting for the new Apple Mac Silicon to replace my 12-core 64 gig Mac Pro from 2013. That's a beefy machine for 2013. Yeah. Well, the Mac Silicon is probably the right time to upgrade. Well, this is a good question. How can I achieve slow motion during a live production? How can I achieve like slow motion replays? Because the Hyperdeck, I don't think you control the playback rate in the Hyperdeck. That's an interesting one. I think you can, oh, no, you totally can. Oh, okay, cool. Check this out. This is my, oh, let me scoot this over. So this is the player control. And if I hit, can I show you this also? Yeah, if I set it up to be the, which one am I on? I'm on the ISO. I need to switch back to, no, I need to be on the ISO. I need to show you. Go. Come on. Why is my like button not working? I want to show you the overlay for the live switcher. Let me get it keying. It's because it's set to the chat. There we go. Okay. Disable the chat. Nope. Downstream key. ATEM. Now bring this on air. Don't mask it. Oh, come on. Oh, right. My ATEM is showing you the wide shot now. There are too many things plugged in. That's what I wanted to show you. There we go, multi-view. Bring that in. Now, I've lost track. What am I trying to do? Oh my gosh. Slow motion. Okay, well, I want to play this back in slow motion. Can you, is this good enough to see? Can't really see what I'm doing in the media player with that camera. But basically, what you can do is when you drag this, you can play it back slower. See how it's animating slower? Half speed, full speed. So somehow it's possible to do it, right? If you have a clip recorded on the Hyperdeck, you can play back slower. It would take some fiddling to make that work well, I think, but seems doable. Seems doable. Marlon says, I have a brand new unopened Hyperdeck Mini. Let me know who wants it. Cool. Yes. Send me an email. I'll put you in touch. I may be late and the question has been answered, but how is the audio sync when you have different cameras? Say a mirrorless and a GoPro. Yeah, different cameras have different. We've talked about this a little bit, but the short answer is the audio sync depends on the camera, and there's not a lot you can do to avoid that. So what I usually say is pick one camera that has like your main shot, like your talking head shot, sync your audio to that, and then use your other cameras in ways where it's okay if they're out of sync. So like when I switch to that wide shot, it doesn't matter if it's a little bit out of sync because you can't see my face that close up. That's about it. Okay, this is a good question. If I connect my ATEM Mini Pro via Ethernet, will that allow me to free up the USB for recording and at the same time use a program like vMix and recognize the ATEM as a webcam? No. So the USB port can only do one or the other, right? It can either plug in a hard drive or plug into your computer. Connecting it via Ethernet does mean you can control it from the computer while recording, which is useful, but you can't both record and use it as a webcam. The Micro Studio cameras require a lot of light. I have noticed that. They're not good at low light. Yep. Okay. Tim says Resolve is mostly GPU rather than the CPU. That is true. That is very true. That's why I need a good GPU, and that's why laptops aren't great at it. The chat that I'm doing here is, I talked about it on several streams, but you can find that on my, just search my channel, and there's one that has like a chat comment in the thumbnail, and that's the one where I talk about it. Please provide the email. Okay, yeah. So send an email to Photo Joseph. Actually, you can just contact him directly. I think his email is on his website. And oh, his email is not on his website. And he has a contact form on his website. But get in touch with him. Otherwise, you can email me, and it is aaron@parecki.com. Do you get 4 separate inputs in OBS with the ATEM Mini Pro ISO? I don't think so. I haven't actually looked yet, but they didn't mention that, and that would really surprise me if it works that way. It's still one capture card. It just can record 4 streams at a time. Okay, cool. I think I caught up with the chat. And we're only a little over time. We are only a little over time. Oh yeah, this is how can I get more program outputs on the ATEM Mini Pro ISO if I also want to use multicam? No, that's the problem. That's the problem with the ATEM Mini, is that there's only one HDMI, so there's not a lot of good options. The only option you have is with the streaming bridge, to stream to the streaming bridge, so that HDMI out can be another program out. That is delayed, so it's not useful in all situations, unfortunately. This is why I asked for another HDMI out in my wish list for my ATEM Mini. I hope they take those suggestions into consideration, though, because I'm pretty excited about that little mock-up of a device that I made. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. All right. I think we're going to end it here. I'm going to go and work on probably my Hyperdeck fan replacement, because I'm pretty excited about, not my Hyperdeck, my TV studio fan. Because I want to put this thing to work again. And I am, yeah, excited to get that set up again. So thank you all for joining, and good to see you all again. Let me know if, go ahead and leave a comment after this is posted, or in the chat here, about this time. Like, did you think this time worked better for people? Because I could see doing this every Sunday. I'm not on this Tuesday for sure, and I will either be back on Sunday or Tuesday of next week. Thanks for all the great questions, and thank you for all the super chats, and thank you for your support. Have a good one.